Perfect. Okay. Well, here we are. First of all, David, thank you so much for the acceptance of my invitation to record this podcast on quite important topic, Jungian psychoanalysis, dream work, and touch base with dancing and movement. I'm really excited for this conversation and how it will unravel uh, towards more and more psyche knowledge and trauma overcoming. And I do hope the listeners would find, everyone would find whatever they're looking for and something valuable in our talk. So thank you so much and welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation, Lila. It's a pleasure to be here. And yes, hopefully people will, get more understanding of the different things we're going to talk about today. So looking forward to it.
Great, fantastic, thank you. And I would like to open the floor with giving you the opportunity to wrap up just in few sentences to present yourself. I would love to present you, but I think it would be best if you say a few words because you do such deep, profound, and meaningful work. So I think if you can sum it up in like few sentences, and then we can go next to the questions.
Okay. So my career actually in psychoanalysis came later. My first career was in dance. So for about 20 years, from about the ages of 18 to 38, I was a professional contemporary dancer, choreographer, teacher, did a lot in terms of dance for 20 years. And then I transitioned in my late 30s, pretty much when, the career as a dancer starts to come to an end for many of us. Some people, dance longer, but and I went into a training program to become a Jungian analyst and did that for about 6 years and then graduated and worked with people. Now I'm practicing, now it's been like 15 years. I've been practicing as a Jungian analyst. And it's been a really interesting, profound experience to understand, the workings of human psyche, working with dreams, working one-on-one, and help people with, issues that, of course, they come with in analysis, whether it's trauma, depression, anxiety, life transitions, and help them into a deeper inner understanding of themselves.
Lovely and lovely professional route. That is so good. This transition you made from the professional dancing world and contemporary dance straight into other symbolic, expressive world, which is the Jungian analysis. And I, as a dance therapist, really admire this jump that you made. It's so good. And was there something particular that drew you exactly to Jungian psychoanalysis to choose to go into that route straight after your dancing career?
Well, it was a gradual understanding. So, in my mid 20s, I started Jungian analysis. And for me, what was profound was the experience. So it wasn't knowledge, it was experience, meaning, getting in touch with my feelings, understanding myself, where, for example, unlike many dancers, I was more intuitive, much freer with my imagination than my actual body. What came first was imagination, intuition, and through analysis and, work with, understanding where I came from, my family dynamics, this released a lot of energy. And so in my dancing, from working very hard and having very little results, my understanding of myself completely changed. And the energy that was available uh, just made me much more in touch with my body, much stronger as a dancer, and taking my place. Really, I'm quite tall, 6'3", so well, when you're dancing and you're not taking the space that your body takes, you're working against yourself. And analysis really changed that. So I really experienced it, you know, as a whole experience, whole body experience. And it wasn't something that was necessarily intellectual. Later, though, as I read more about Jung, then a whole understanding about his way of seeing human beings, and that most important, that we have an inner world that's always there, waiting for
Yes,
us to pay attention to it. And much of
absolutely.
our lives, especially young, is all outside. And I'm quite an introvert. And so to understand myself and go, hey, listen to what's inside, because there is wisdom there, there's understanding, there's feelings. And the analysis really got me in touch with listening to myself. And this, of course, gets one to be more in their own power, their own capacity to relate.
I love this. And thank you for mentioning this because totally, as dancers, we are so much externally oriented. The big part of our performance is the audience. Of course, we dance also for the audience. In some cases, we dance also for the validation, for the applause, and everything goes out. So there's this massive expenditure of energy, but sometimes we get not enough aware of our inner world and our consciousness. And this seems like for you was the missing piece, which Jungian analysis could give quite a lot of answers to. So that is great. And when was it the first moment when you realized that, wow, with Jungian analysis in particular, also dream work, we can get to quite a lot of depth when it comes to treating trauma? When was the first aha moment that you had in the profession?
Oh, well, we see in Jungian analysis, we see trauma as what we would call a complex, a specific experience where what we would say is there's a splitting of the psyche. And so part of our inner world is split. There's a part that, in a sense, becomes an island, and it doesn't
Yeah.
touch any more mainland. And this particular understanding that we have is that the island, the trauma, is not going to go away. This is
Mm-hmm.
Jung's take. The trauma becomes part of who we are.
Yes.
However, the trauma lacks consciousness. We avoid it. We think without knowing unconsciously, oh, I don't ever want to experience this again. And so a whole set of defense mechanisms makes sure, without us knowing, that we don't go there. And as long as we don't go there, we don't know it. We don't know how we avoid a whole aspect of life where the
Mm.
trauma is sitting. However, there are moments when in life we are re traumatized, or something touches the trauma and we become, in a sense, someone else. We become hijacked. We're not our best self anymore. We are taken in the trauma. And for a while, we'll be there, and then we'll come back to ourselves and go, what happened? And
Mm.
this can happen again and again and again. Now, in our dreams, this trauma is there, It's going to appear in our dreams in different symbolic ways. And the dreams will actually suggest aspects of us that can help,
Yes.
aspects of us that we'll tend to avoid or not see. And the dreams will bring images that these images, when we really contemplate them, they have energy within them.
Yeah.
This is hard to understand, but you dream of, I don't know, a lion and you
Mhm.
lack confidence, you know. And a lion is, it's a symbol of, royalty, of confidence, of being special. And you lack that. The dream will bring up images that can summon energy that usually the trauma won't let you experience.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so, what I like about Jung's take of trauma and complex is that he says we outgrow our complexes, we outgrow trauma. We don't make it go away. We just become much more of who we are. And then the trauma doesn't really have a big influence in our life anymore. But this does take time.
Yes, exactly. So basically, this is the way towards bridging these little islands of splitting that you mentioned earlier, through gradually picking up a little bit more courage every time more and more to consciously see the trauma, to consciously be able to be present with it and not let yourself be hijacked and escape and suppress it.
That that's right. And it happens in very subtle ways where, for example, someone's in a certain situation and they don't realize that they say yes when they feel like saying no. And they do yes and yes and yes when inside it's saying no, no, no. And they never listen to the no, no, no inside. And so when we bring someone to go, well, why did you say yes? In analysis, we'll ask the client, why did you say yes when you felt no?
Mhm.
Something inside of you says, no, I don't want this. And then we look, oh, this was maybe how they were brought up. This
Exactly.
is
Yes.
this is how to react to a certain type of authority, for example.
Yeah.
When inside it says, I don't feel like doing this. This doesn't feel good. And
Yes.
so then they can start to see that while they are traumatized or complexed, there's subtle things that can say to them, this is not good. This
Hmm.
doesn't feel good. This doesn't feel right. And it's more and more of this understanding of the felt experience that eventually someone can kind of go, I'm on that island right now,
Yeah.
and I want to go back to the mainland. So, we'll take like, I'll say this to, a couple, a man and a woman, and they'll be like having an argument. And then let's say the person I work with says, I'm having this discussion with my girlfriend and everything is heating up and it's getting really emotional. And then I stopped and I went, listen, dear, I'm not here anymore. I'm going to go for a walk and let's stop this discussion right now. We're not going to get anywhere. That is huge for some people. Just to realize I'm complex right now. I'm slightly traumatized. I need to leave. I need to like come back to myself.
Hmm.
When someone does that, that's a huge win.
Yeah.
Because instead of like, okay, it rises and then they split up just because the
Hmm.
complex took over,
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
instead of going,
Massive.
okay, let me just recalibrate, come back to me.
That's the art, isn't it? Like to be able to know when to withdraw not in a punishing way, not in a vindictive way, and also to make sure that your partner knows it has nothing to do with them. It's actually
E-
your own complex.
Exactly. But I think this is a very good point you're bringing. In some situations, when uh, no one is playing games, no one's trying to intentionally hurt the other or manipulate the other. If that's not the case, then to say it has nothing to do with you. Because
Mhm.
usually both people have their things.
Yes, yes,
And if both
exactly.
are able to say, okay, I'm caught in something, yes, I'm also caught in something, let's just stop this
Mm.
discussion.
Yeah.
We'll take it up later
Mhm.
when it's not so heated anymore.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, this is the hardest thing, right? When, especially in couples, if we take, for example, this example of relationships, uh, if both complexes are triggered of the two partners, then it can get really explosive. And what I tend to see also with clients is in couples work, sometimes they have complementary patterns. So it's if one is avoidant, the other would be the gripping attachment.
Anxious,
So
yes.
anxious, yeah, anxious, preoccupied. So it's self-reinforcing. So it takes quite a lot of consciousness and maturity on both sides. Also care, I think, and love. I believe. Yeah.
Well, that's really helpful when there is that care and love, and that can be accessed, because
Mm.
usually in the heat of the moment, we're not so caring anymore. We are more defending.
Yes. Okay, next question I wanted to ask you, I have it on my list here, is we touched maybe a little bit lightly on this one, but where exactly does trauma live in the body? If we have to speak from somatic point of view, and also based on your expertise as a dancer and how you work, can you point like I guess for every person is different. That's also true. Like the somatization can come in any area of the body. But the second part of this question is more towards when you identify through your therapy work where exactly the trauma lives in the body and where is it embodied, how we can help the body remember it and process it.
Okay, well, I'll go with what you mentioned here. It's very important working with different people, getting a sense of what is, the place where they naturally go to and that they're comfortable in. So when someone is very much aware of their physical sensations, and some people are, some people aren't. But when someone is, for example, aware of this, so they're going to start to talk about something, and then there's going to be, and let's say on my part, I'll go, okay, there's something going on right now. And I'm
Mhm.
going to ask, it seems like you're feeling something. There's some emotion coming up. And then the person will start to talk, and I'll go, do you feel it in your body? And ask them, where in your body specifically? And, often for many people, if they have access to their bodies, they'll feel it, but many won't know or they won't take the time to go, oh, I feel it in my chest. Oh, I feel it in my stomach. Oh, I feel it in my back, wherever it is. But just to go there. For us, Jungians, we're going to look at where in the body, because also in the body is going to tell us symbolically what archetype is activated. You know,
Wow.
so let's say, but same thing with the dream. If a dream comes up and there's a strong image, and the person says, "Oh, that doesn't make me feel good, and I feel it this place in my body." And then to invite them to go in that place
Mm-hmm.
safely. Okay, so it's
Yes.
in my stomach. How does it feel in your stomach? It feels like a knot, let's say. So you see, we're inviting their consciousness to go to the felt experience. Now, stomach, well, mother,
Mm-hmm.
we're often dealing with mother things, and you can't take this as a given, but there's a lot of chances that everything around food, around digestion, the stomach might have a relationship to the mother. If we're dealing with migraines, headaches, if we're dealing, and then head stuff, dealing with the throat, if, they're like, I'm feeling a grip in my throat. Okay, expression, what needs to be said that is not being expressed. The throat as being between the head and the heart. There's something where this is not communicating. It's stuck here. And so invite the person where the symptom expresses itself. So, really, if we take a step back, what we're doing is we're inviting more consciousness
Mm.
on that island, but
Yes.
conscious, not traumatized. It's in a sense, we can imagine that the island is in the dark. There's
Mm-hmm.
no sun that ever goes there. And so,
Mm-hmm.
what we're inviting is the light to reach the island so that the person starts to go, okay, I feel in my stomach. All right. And then they might go, oh, and this often happens. I have a memory.
Yes.
What's
Yes.
the memory? So, sometimes it's going, if there is no memory, it's going through the physical sensation that the memory is going to come up.
Mm.
And
Wow.
but first we have to go to that physical sensation. However, if we're working, let's say I'm going to work with someone who's absolutely not in their body, okay?
Mm-hmm.
They have 1,000 images, a minute,
Yeah. Mm.
but they do not feel anything in their body.
Mm.
Sometimes, as a therapist, we will feel it in our bodies.
Okay. The counter transfers and transfers, correct?
That's
Yes.
right. And we'll go, oh, it's like it's stuck here in my chest, and you're working with the person and you go, whoa, what's that coming from? And if you know you're not being triggered, it's not your stuff, like
Uh-huh.
my personal stuff, David, like, no, that's not mine. Okay, this is in the room. And then sometimes I've had situations where I go, I'm feeling something in my chest as I'm responding to what you're saying.
Yeah. Right.
And this then, they might not react on the same, but a session or two later, they'll bring it back and they'll go, oh, I felt that in my body because you felt it 2 sessions ago.
We're so connected.
It's so connected. But, however, our presence as analysts is really important, that we're very much listening, conscious of whatever. You know,
Yeah.
it can be a physical reaction, it can be an image, it can be
Mm-hmm.
a thought, and to not deny the existence of that as therapists, and to bring it up in the session.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So you would normally, if you have this transfers, counter transfers moment, you would normally bring it into the client in a safer way so that they can unpack this gift later on and keep on working with this.
Yes, a more tangible, and maybe people will more be able to relate to this. You know, someone comes and this has happened, they say something, there's no affect, there's no feeling whatsoever. And they say the memory of a most awful situation. And you sit there, and I've had this happen where someone says something and there's tears coming down my eyes because it's just awful. And then they're like, and to see
Mm.
someone react to their story
Yes, yeah.
like that. And so, in a sense, we can't sit there and censor ourselves too much
Mm.
because, when we feel what they're not feeling,
Mm.
then they're starting to understand, like, oh, he
Yeah.
felt something and I'm not feeling anything. And, when they ask, why are you? I'm like, well, that must have been terrible
Mm.
to have experienced that and to say that. And that can be profound in terms of work for people. Because, often, people come into analysis and they're completely detached
Mm.
from what they've experienced. They haven't really accessed all of the emotion that's stuck on that island. And so
Mm.
to have someone else feel that, and then it helps them go there.
Mm. It's
I'm
scary,
saying
right?
it's very
Because
scary to go there.
mm.
But in a sense, for them, there's a trust that needs to be established. And within that trust, then it gives them the courage
Mhm.
to feel the things they didn't feel.
Exactly. With a smart company, with a smart guide, that's is the analyst.
Yeah, and often, people will come into analysis, they'll be very emotional, and then as soon as they leave, they don't go there for a whole week. And they don't feel a thing. And then they come back and then they're very emotional in the session and then they leave. And, it takes a while before they give themselves the permission or they feel secure enough because they feel
Yeah.
secure in the space, they can feel it there. And
Mhm.
then eventually they own it and they don't have to only be in the company of their analysts to feel things in their lives.
Hmm. That touches a little bit on what I wanted to ask you next was how long normally this process could take. For example, what you described, we can go visit this scary feeling or this emotion, this knot in the belly, and especially if some images come or some memories that are traumatic, I could only imagine that clients would lock up and not want to go immediate. So would or every case is individual. So we cannot really put a
Yeah,
timeline.
yeah, and depending, there's many things,
Mhm.
how did the person adapt to the trauma?
Yeah.
Is almost just as important as the trauma itself. How did they adapt? How did they continue? How did they experience the trauma? Because we've learned over time that the psyche is very smart.
Mhm.
So if what happened was too traumatic, it's too much, then, the unconscious will put in place, in
Mhm.
a sense, servicemen, service people who make sure that this never happens again. And
Yeah.
so the defensive mechanisms, the avoidant mechanisms are very sophisticated. And then there's all kinds of reasons why not, why would I make myself vulnerable?
Mhm.
Too dangerous. And so first, these have to be acknowledged. These aspects of the psyche as defenses have to be acknowledged. And that takes time just to, build the trust. If you let that go,
Mhm.
just for 5 seconds, you know,
Yeah.
are you going to be okay? I'm here with you. So, different people will need different time, you know.
Yeah.
However, in a more general sense, if you're working with someone who's 20 years old and you're working with someone who's 45 years old, two different things.
Exactly. Yeah.
If the person that's 20, uh, you know, they've adapted, but not so much. Having
Yeah.
adapted 10, 15 years is not the same thing than having adapted 25, 30 years.
Totally.
And so, of course, it's easier in a sense with
Yeah.
young people. However, young people often don't stay long enough in analysis.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're quick to leave. So first you have to build their ego and
Hmm.
and and have them, be strong enough to go there. Most of us, are ready to go there when we're 45. We've had a job, we're married, we have kids, we have all of these things. We've built our ego,
Yes.
and maybe we needed to build that ego so that it's strong enough to face the trauma.
Hmm. Wow.
So, sometimes, with young people, yeah, they do a little bit of work, they get over a bump, and then really the thing to do is to set them back into life. It's very important that people build their talents, their resources, their resilience, that they experience life issues, good and bad, and that analysis, gives them the sort of invitation of live. Because there are certain issues that they take time, and sometimes we're not ready to face it.
Exactly. Yeah.
So,
Totally.
each person is going to be a different,
Mm. And this might be sounding a little bit more stereotypical, but is it still true that there are more women coming to therapy than men? Or do you observe some shift in the number of men that also reach out for therapy?
Well, I think we attract different people as, therapists. And so uh, I find, like, talking to my colleagues, if I go outside of my own therapeutic work and talk to colleagues and different people that are in the helping profession, women tend to look for help more than men.
Still, for now.
However, yes, however, uh, there's a very interesting thing about gay men and straight men.
Uh-huh.
Gay men start their life young with a lot of challenges.
Yeah.
Okay, gay men, when they're young, they really have to face real challenges very young. The object of my love seems to be a problem,
Yes, yes,
right?
yeah.
Straight men don't, that's not a problem. This is a huge difference. It's a huge difference. And so what we see, there's data that shows that gay men start their life with more challenges, but when they come to 50 and they're in their later years, even in their 40s, they're much better in their skin than straight men.
Wow.
You know why? Because they
Wow.
they they ask for help.
Oh my God. Wow.
Gay men go to therapy, straight men don't. And so gay men have a much better second half of life. Straight men,
Wow.
a lot of straight men, the second half of life is not very good. And we see it. We see women coming to their 40s, making big changes. The men are lagging behind. And most of them, the reason is they're not looking for help. They don't reach out, and their problems are no bigger or less than anyone else. It's just that they're taught to do it on their own.
Yeah. The legacy of a little bit of the patriarchy and the old traditional roles. Yeah.
Of what masculinity is. And unfortunately, we've got it, to me, a lot of it, we've got it wrong.
Hmm.
Jung, he summarizes masculinity in one sentence. He says, masculinity, whether it's in a man or in a woman, comes down to knowing what you want and doing what is needed to get what you want.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And he says, that's masculinity. That's it. So if you want something, if you love something, if there's something that has value for you, do what's needed.
Wow.
Take
Yes.
action on that thing. That the action part, that's the masculine part.
Exactly.
And it's
And
true
we
for
both.
men and women. That's all it is. That's all, the rest will fall into place. You protect and you take action because you love. You do all of these things that are typically men do. They provide because they love. And if that's really connected, then masculinity shines. This is why I work with a lot of gay men. I work with straight men. The gay men are just as masculine as some of the straight men. I'm sorry. Like they're accomplished, they're
Yeah.
smart, they get things done. I mean, there's nothing not masculine in many gay men. It's just they don't show the typical things, but that's not masculine, that's persona.
Wow, that's a massive revelation. Thank you for bringing this up. And I do feel like there should be more of these type of talks, and this need to get out to the world so that we can gradually shift perceptions, right? And start looking at things the right way.
Yes, I'm going to do a talk in March at the Montreal Jung Society. I'm going to talk about, the transition where women, for less than 150 years, women are
Mhm.
free.
Yes.
In terms of history, this is, in a 24-hour clock, women have been free for the last few minutes, if we look at human history. This is
Exactly.
huge. It's huge in terms of the species.
Mm.
Women have become way more adapted to the outside world.
Mm.
They take part in the outside world where, for most of history, they haven't.
Yeah.
They took part of
Yeah.
the inner world, taking part of the emotions of the children, of their partners, of their brother, of their father. They did all of that. Now they have careers, they're independent, they're free like they've never been. And so they develop that. And men, they don't know what is their
Mm.
path. They can be out in the world. They've always been free to go there. What's
Yes.
neglected is their inner world. I think that men is the part that listens. Before you take action, you need to know what you love.
So, so beautiful. This is so right. Yes.
And they
Yes.
don't know what they love. They don't know what they want.
Mm. That comes from the connection to the sensitivity, right? To the part that is more the animal, right? The more the gentle part.
Well,
Correct?
yes, but even more simple, I find, because the anima is, it's quite a complicated, you're right, it is the anima, but, in very simple things, men, you work with men and you ask them, what do you like to do? What is it that gives you energy?
Yeah.
What activities do you love to do? They don't know.
Hmm.
They know what they should do. They do
Yeah.
what dad did, what the neighbor does, what the influencer says, but they don't ask inside, what is it that when I'm doing it, I'm vitalized, I'm alive, I'm active. I want more
Yeah.
of this and go for those things. Go for the things that give energy. And from
Hmm.
one person to the next, and you take a guy and you give him a mathematical problem, and one guy is going to be like, he's going to love it. And it's like he's going to spend time. And then the next guy, oh, hates it. Hates it with a like you don't tell this guy you should know math. Forget it.
No.
Math is not your thing. But if it is your thing, then that's where there's energy. Go
Yeah.
there where there's energy.
Hmm.
But this is true of women too. This
Exactly.
this is true of all of us, to listen, and we tend to ask the question outside of the experience. When it's the same thing when we're in the relationship or we're with someone, and I will ask the question to people, how does it feel in the presence of your partner? How do you feel?
Ah,
If your body's saying, I'm scared, that's not a good sign.
absolutely. Yeah.
But we tend not to listen how we feel. Oh, when I'm with this person, I feel exhilarated. I have enthusiasm. Okay, that's interesting. There's potential here.
Yeah.
But often we don't listen to our actual experience. Like, how does your work feel at work? Not the
Wow.
title, not the fact that your parents are proud because, I don't know, you're a doctor or an engineer. No, your experience. Are you getting up in the morning and you're like, I want to go to work because I love what I do. And when I'm
Yeah.
there, I still love it.
Hmm.
That's rare.
Hmm.
But that, when we do an activity that gives us energy, makes a world of difference.
Massive topic because so much we are driven towards acting, performing, KPIs nowadays, followers, like being successful, hitting all the targets. And in the end, we really do not often stop to feel ourselves, our bodies. And is this really in line with my soul and what I love, what I want to do? And who I am now and who I am becoming if I continue in this setting. It's even more important. So that's lovely that you can bring the clients to this moment where, okay, there could be this connection to the energy, to where is the libido, how also in terms
That's
of Jung,
right.
how energy, the life force, the potential, the vitality. Yes.
Because you see, if someone, for example, comes into analysis and we can see, oh, there's this trauma, but
Hmm.
maybe first. And the dreams will show us that, and they will give us a direction to go, hey, this is important. And let's say there's a talent, okay?
Mm.
But,
Mm-hmm.
the person's a writer and, they'd like to write, but they're not doing it, okay?
Ah,
Maybe first they need to do that, which will build their confidence, which will make them stronger, and then they can deal with the complex. Then they
wow.
can face the trauma. Because sometimes if you're not strong enough, dealing with the trauma right away might not help. And so we need
That's
to
very,
consider the whole person. We,
yeah.
we, we don't want to just deal with the trauma. The trauma is super important, absolutely. And there's work needs to be done there, but there's all kinds of other aspects of the personality that needs to come out of the darkness to the light. Because
That's
sometimes, so some people, they do their life is when it becomes much more alive, then they
mm,
have the resilience to go, my life is giving me energy, and this is a problem. You know, I can't have relationships. My
mm,
relationships don't work. But I don't know, they're a very talented musician, or they're, a very creative entrepreneur, and they have other sides of their talents that are naturally being expressed. And then they go,
mm.
okay, now I need to deal with this. Like, what's going on in my relationship? And now they have the energy and resilience to do the work.
It's such an interesting approach. Normally, the majority of the colleagues I spoke to would normally work it the other way around, like trauma fixing first, or even like short-term therapy, or like doing again more the goal-oriented approach. But then it seems like Jungian analysis and dream work is a whole other planet, and it's not like one recipe and one way to go. And this is really smart what you just said now. Okay, build the resilience of the person, start from the practical, work with the talents, and then when they feel more confident in themselves, then they might feel stronger to look at the trauma.
Yes, and,
If
and when we work with dreams, for analysts who are good working with dreams, I've worked with clients where they brought dreams, and the dream is for me more than for them. I'll give you an example.
ah,
The person comes to a door. They
yes.
know that what's behind the door is something very special but frightening.
Mm.
And the dream basically says, don't open the door. It
Wow.
means they're not ready. They're not ready to go into the trauma. And then something else happens,
Yes.
and then they find something else. We want to go there first.
Yeah. Mm.
And so, the dreams are extremely insightful in terms of what does the individual need now in their life now.
Mm. Yeah. I'm going to retract a little bit backwards on the topic. It's true, it's totally true that women have a lot more freedom nowadays. And but like also you said, it's only been for a few seconds. And if I connect this statement to my work as a dance therapist and with experience with women survivors in shelters throughout Europe, what I often see is yes, we have a lot of freedom, women nowadays, but sometimes it's covert freedom. So it's especially in the situations where it has been domestic violence and emotional abuse and coercive control. It on the outside for the whole world, it looks like this woman is really free, but she is limited. Her agency, she feels intimate terror. She's not blossoming. because of the violence that she's experiencing at home. So do my question in that aspect would be, you mentioned also that it would be great if more men uh, look for help. Do you think we would come to sort a little bit better the issue with domestic violence nowadays if we somehow manage to get to like work that soft part of men more, like to get them more to yeah mm, to work with
Well,
animal with complex yeah.
w- uh, you know, it's going to play itself out, you know. I take a step back when I look at, you know, the issue in terms of men and women. We're in it. You know, we are in a huge transition to me.
Yeah.
We don't
Yeah.
realize how big of a transition it is. Now, women are doing much better in the outer world because for the first time they can go there. However, this comes with all kinds of challenges. One of the biggest challenge in the women that I work with, you know, especially midlife, is
Mhm.
that they have a career, uh, they're independent, they have relationships. However, you know, they're not getting away from centuries and centuries of taking care of their partners.
Yes. Hmm.
You don't take care of your partner like you take care of your son or your daughter.
Yeah.
And when your son and your daughter become 20 years old, that's got to stop.
Mhm. Yeah.
The mothering side, you know, is specific to mothering children. I still see many women mothering their partners. Instead, you know, one Analyzan, you know, very smart woman, you know, therapist herself, you know, what do I do with, you know, the father of my kids, you know, separated, you know, and my partner when it comes to my freedom? And I said, let them be, let them suffer. If they have an issue with your freedom, with what you do, with who you
Yeah.
are, it's not your problem. It's for them to solve it. If they are struggling with their stuff, let them struggle. Men will not, you know, move along like women have without them suffering.
Hmm. Exactly.
So to me, you know, the straight guy, the best thing that can happen to the straight guy is for him to get his heart broken in a massive way so that he suffers. The gay guy doesn't need that because at 12 years old, he's already suffering
Yeah.
because he says, I don't fit into the world. And that's huge.
Hmm.
And they adapt all kinds of ways. The straight guy, hey, they just go through the whole thing and they come to 20 and you know they're not really present to their life. They're not involved. Oh, but then, you know, they fall in love and they have a kind of a relationship. They get heartbroken
Mhm.
and now they
Mhm.
start to realize, oh, I've got all kinds of things that I feel.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
and you know, women tend to mother their partners.
Mhm.
He's in a mood, you know. The man comes home, he's in a mood, and then they try to like, you know, help, and instead of going, hey, I don't know what's going on with you. You came, from work. I don't know, you've got a big cloud over your head. That's not my issue. That's yours. I'm not going to deal
Yeah,
with that.
exactly. Yeah.
And and
It's
and and if a
yeah.
woman is able to just say, listen, I can listen to you, but you don't take on their emotional life.
Mm-hmm.
And this can happen, in the air. And women don't realize that they're taking on their partner's emotional life.
Wow.
And sometimes they'll feel guilty if they don't take it on.
Exactly. Wow. So if I hear you right, then it means both women and men need to work. On one side, men need to work to be able to leave the man cave and be able to ask for help and that's also massive work because it goes against centuries of being wired to be used as a man to not ask for help and to deal with things alone. And for women, conversely, like we need to learn to also relearn and go against the pattern that we've been fed through with breastfeeding, with the mother's milk. That yeah, we are caretakers and nurturers, so that we could eventually meet in the middle somewhere.
Well, yes, and this is going to take, like I said, a long time, but women also, they're out in the world. However, in their inner world, I find, the judge is really problematic.
The inner judge. Yeah.
Yeah, the inner judge. And, it manifests in ways where women, women, when they come to like, it's fascinating. When they come to 40, 45, they've had their father, their husband, their boyfriends, their brother, their uncle tell them what to do and how to live their lives.
I'm familiar, yes.
And then they come to 40, 45, and they're like, I don't want to hear another man tell me how to live my life. If another man comes to tell me how to live my life, I'm going to cut his head off. You know, like they are livid because every man has told them how to live
Mhm.
instead of like, no, I'm going to do what I want to do, what I feel like doing. However, their inner masculine, their judge
Yeah,
inside invites them to judge themselves.
exactly.
So instead of, hey, what do you think? A woman will quote some man's idea.
Yeah,
They will
yeah.
quote some interesting philosopher guy, mostly men, but
Hmm.
won't come up with, I think this about that.
Hmm. Hmm.
I think, but also I feel. I feel like this. Yes, but you should. Yeah, but I feel like that. Yes, but you should. Forget the should.
Yeah.
The should is, you should be a good wife. You're not being sensitive if you say to your partner who just came through the door with a big cloud over his head, like, hey, listen, this is your stuff. That's what's
Yes.
needed there because it doesn't
Exactly.
feel good to be around a man who's in a mood.
Yeah.
And for a
Yeah.
woman to listen to herself, instead she's going to go, oh, I need to be a good wife, a good partner.
Mm.
Yeah, but that doesn't belong to you. This is his stuff.
Yeah.
Respect him and his stuff. Just
Absolutely. Yeah, and it's a gift for him because if she always takes over his emotional world, he cannot develop. You already said it earlier. He cannot grow.
yes. Yes, and some men will really appreciate that, and then others will make
Yeah.
their partner feel guilty or find some problem somewhere so that they don't live how they're actually feeling. Some guys, they come from work, they should have been pissed off, say to their coworker or their boss to go F themselves, and instead they come home and they get into a fight with their partners.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's not dealing with their emotional life at all. Instead of going, okay, how am I feeling here? I'm really pissed off at my boss. Good. That's who you're pissed off at. Leave your wife or your partner alone. She's not responsible for your emotional life.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately, sometimes it's easier to come home and dump these emotions, and it's a lot scary than the ego and everything. Like it's power differential. But I wanted to ask you, how do you work with women clients to help them straighten this part, the healthy animals inside, the healthy judge inside that helps them all determine, okay, now here no, here yes, and then navigate these treacherous territories.
Well, I find that what helps women most with the inner judge, with how hard they can be on themselves,
Mhm.
and they identify with that. They're like, oh, yeah, I'm a strong woman. Yeah, fine. First, foremost, get them in touch with their femininity.
Okay.
How do you feel?
Mm.
What, are you respecting your physical body?
Mm.
It's very interesting. Women's bodies, as Nancy Houston says, changes her whole life. A
Yeah.
little girl suddenly, you know, uh, adolescent changes everything. Their body changes. Suddenly they have breasts, suddenly they have hips. Out of nowhere, from one day to the next, their body changes. Oh, they have a period, they're having their periods. Wow, huge change. This, oh, now they have, sexual relationships. Poof, a whole other change. They are pregnant, they're now mothers. Later, there's premenopause, then menopause. Oh my God, like every month, it's their body, everything changes in a woman's body their whole life.
Yes.
If they're not in their bodies, it's going to
Mm.
be very difficult. They need men can live outside their bodies, and for many of them, it won't change a thing.
Yeah.
They can be in their ideas and their ideals, and they can still plow through.
Mhm.
Some can't, luckily for them. But
Yeah.
women first, they need to like, when I do some workshops, I'll say to some women like, okay, get naked in front of the mirror when you get home, and what's the first thing you that comes to you when you look at yourself in the mirror naked? Judgment is the first thing that's going to come. That's the animus. The
The
first
bad
thing that
animal.
come, the inner masculine that judges them for not being ideally beautiful. It's an ideal, it's not a state of being. And
Mhm.
women, first and foremost, if they want to deal with the inner masculine, which is usually negative at the beginning,
Mhm.
they need to come back to loving themselves, loving nature, getting in touch with their bodies, really getting in touch, knowing who they are inside their bodies. Feelings.
Beautiful.
Don't neglect your feelings. If you feel sad, you feel sad. But most important, women are angry and they don't feel their anger. They feel it in their 40s. It's repressed. And they're angry at men, but first and foremost, they're angry at the part of them that says you should be like this and you should be like that and be a good mother and be a good wife and a perfect employee and compete with men. Impossible.
Yeah, yeah, no way to win. Totally.
No way to win. And first is to love themselves.
Mhm.
And women in their 40s, they start to go, okay, me first. That's the only
Finally, yeah.
way. That's the
Ah,
only way it's going to change. Me first and how I feel and the things I love. And then,
mhm.
for example, you'll see it, in women's dreams. Vampires, violent men, bluebeards, and all of, ready to decapitate them in their dreams. Very negative masculine. And this is symbolic of them being so hard
Yeah,
on themselves
of the bad
instead
women
of
in the
really
masculine.
coming to their own, you know, respect of who they are, loving themselves.
Mhm.
And that,
And then
their
you say that,
intuition, for example, their intuition, they listen to that. If your intuition says no, don't go there. If your intuition says, this doesn't feel good, I think I should leave. Leave. Get out of there. Oh, this
mm,
guy, I don't have a good I don't have a good feeling. Stop the date. It's time to go home. Get out of there. He
it's
needs to
so,
listen to their intuition.
it would be so great because you said women in their 40s are ready to start this transition towards me first, finally. Stop deprioritizing myself and prioritizing everybody else. It would be really great if we can teach this to the younger generations, girls and women, like from adolescence onwards. And this is so needed to be a key wisdom, key knowledge that should be somehow transitioned. And I really don't know the recipe of how we can do this, but maybe you can offer some insight in that one.
Well, to me, the more we look at the changes, we're used to what has said. Jung said 100 years ago, we're living medieval relationships. He says,
Medieval.
medieval, like we're living relationships that are like 500 years old. And what he's meaning by that is that men play men and
Yeah,
women play women.
yeah.
So I'm the masculine, you're the feminine, and that's the written contract,
Mm, mm,
unspoken. I'll be the man, you be the woman. And he says, does not work anymore.
yeah.
Women, it's too little for them. They want more freedom. And men
Mm,
too. So what's going on? Well, I find that maybe what's going on is that we need to think of ourselves as yin yang.
mm.
The circle of the yin yang is a circle, it's a wholeness.
Yeah,
Yes, you're a
yeah,
woman, but you have masculine energy in you. You need to be
mm,
both.
yeah,
And,
totally.
and 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 if there's certain emotions, like women are taught to be nice girls, that's problematic.
Mm,
Women need to own up to their anger because their anger is going to tell them, no, I don't like that.
mm,
And that has been for a long time not accepted. And men, well, men are both masculine and feminine. And that's the way to go, and we live in a patriarchy. We live in a much more masculine driven society. Women are
mm,
adapting to that.
mm.
but it
Yes.
can't be at the cost of their feminine.
Yeah.
But feminine does not mean being a good wife or a good mother. Feminine
Oh,
means
yeah.
being with yourself. Feminine means being receptive, listening. You know, I mean, it's very interesting. When I was last, actually in Europe in Barcelona, I was, walking around a lot and, going to cafes, sitting down, watching people. I was stunned at seeing how often men are talking, blah, 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 at their girlfriends, at their wives, and they're talking, and the woman's just sitting there listening, 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 listening. Jesus. And for a man, in the therapeutic work, we have no choice. We have to listen. I'm
Yeah.
talking a lot
Mm,
here, but when I'm working, I don't talk a whole lot, almost none. And
mm,
men need to develop the feminine capacity to listen. First and foremost, listen.
wow.
Let certain things in, let things touch you, penetrate you.
Mm. And how they can do that, taking into consideration if it's like a man who hasn't worked a lot with his ego to put healthy ego boundaries, healthy ego, how he can develop a little bit more the listening capacity, for example, in your view.
Well, I find that if you really listen, you're going to learn things.
Mm.
You're going to see things differently. You
Yeah,
know, life is not made only of the way we see the world.
absolutely.
Everyone has a very specific way to see the world because the way your parents were, your teachers, the country you live in, the color of your skin. I'm sorry, all of these things unwillingly we identify to. This is not the world. This is
Mm.
our projection on the world. To know the world, we need to listen. We need to listen to someone else say, hey, you see the world pink, and I see the world green. And
Mhm.
then you can find your green in yourself if you listen to someone else. It
Yeah.
might open a door. Women listen way better than men.
Mm.
And I think that's
Yeah.
why more women, in their 40s kind of go, ciao, bye, buddy, I'm out of here. Because they come to like, hey, there's more to life than this.
Yeah.
And
Mm.
guys get there after the divorce, after
Yeah.
they break up.
Mm.
And then they go, oh, I wasn't listening.
Wow.
There was this
Wow.
man, he was talking to, a man who, an older man. He was saying, listen, guys, if you think right now that your wife or your partner is beginning to think of leaving you, she's
Mm.
been thinking about it for years. So you're probably already too late. And I thought, oh, that's so interesting because, we have a bad habit of not listening as men.
Mm. So, or selective listening. I mean, it's been serving probably some men in the past, but then actually, in the end, in the long run, it does a disservice because, yeah, if he suddenly finds himself in front of a divorce or a breakup, then, yeah, then it means, like you said, he hasn't been really listening for some time.
That's
And
right.
yeah, you touched on something also really important, especially when I think about international marriages. where one person comes from one culture and another from the other end of the world, which is totally often nowadays. It happens more and more. We live in so connected world. And yeah, all the things, all the baggage that we come with to this relationship or a marriage with our culture, skin color, religion, education, everything is sometimes going to clash with the one of the other partner. But then also we so often forget, we're so identified with religion, with anything, you name it, and it's normal to be identified, but it's also the mask, the persona. Like how, for example, when you work with couples, how can you help them come closer to realize and see below that surface, to come to more human level, more psyche level connection between themselves so that they don't clash so much culturally?
Okay, well, I think that both people, if they're going to be in a relationship where there's many differences,
Mm.
okay, cultural, racial differences, I find that both of them have to be on a path of knowing themselves. If one does and the other one doesn't, the one that is not on that path will tend to identify too much to their culture, their race, their point of view.
Ah, okay.
Because if we do inner work and we do it for long enough, yes, we look at, the effects of our parents,
Mhm.
but we can also start to go, hey, I'm also affected by my culture,
Yeah,
and my culture is not me. My
yeah.
culture is a layer, like you said, of persona.
Mm.
Race can be a layer of persona.
Yeah. Mm.
It can be a way to see the world. And so to come to really see the other person in all their differences,
Mhm.
you need to see that within yourself first.
Wow. Yeah.
If you see yourself like, I'm French Canadian from a very specific part of Canada that only speaks French, but I'm bilingual. Luckily, I went to live in Toronto, in English Canada. I traveled a lot. Yes, I'm French Canadian, but I'm not identified to being a French Canadian. I'm more than
Yeah.
that. I'm that, and I can be critical of that and see the problems there that we don't even question ourselves.
Mm.
I'm white. This
Mhm.
comes with a whole way of seeing people, and life has challenged me to go reactions where I'll go, wow, why am I reacting like this? Wow, this is racist. I'm having a
Mm.
racist reaction.
Wow.
Where is
Wow.
that
Yeah.
coming from in me? Is this what I really believe?
Mm.
And so, to start to look at our own darkness and question these things, then we become true individuals. And if we're true individuals, we can see the other person as a true individual, no matter what race, what culture, where they come from. But I
Wow.
find
Yeah.
that to make this work, it's very difficult if one person is very deeply working on that and the other person isn't.
Mm. Well, that is another great insight that you give right there, because I never even realized, but it's so true that if one person works deeply on their inner process, on their individuation, and the other person in the relationship is not, then he's going to grip tighter to the thing, to that person, to that mask that he has, the culture, the nationality, whatever it is, you name it. And then it can be a little bit more oppressive to the other person, because then they would have to, like, yeah, only confront this or come to this persona or this side, and the shadow that is under is never addressed. So then you don't have an authentic connection because that person is meeting you only with a mask, sort of, right? Am I
Yes. Yes, and
getting?
there are, there might be very valid issues, uh, if, for example, the culture very much values family.
Yeah,
You get married, you have kids, and this is a very strong value. This is never questioned. And
wow.
without knowing when you identify with this, if someone decides not to have children, not to get married, there's a judgment, a very underneath judgment. But if you disidentify and you go, okay, this is a choice. Getting married
Yeah,
is a choice, you know.
absolutely. Yeah.
Having kids is a choice. It's no better or worse than another choice. It's just a choice. And it's my choice. And if someone chooses not to do that, good for them, as long as it's
Yeah.
their choice.
Hmm.
But
Beautiful.
but it's subtle the way this stuff. But it's no different, and this is when couples have issues around sexuality. If one person has actually really looked at who am I as a sexual being, and the other person, because of culture, because of religion, they never talk about this.
Yeah, yeah,
Th- This is
absolutely.
this is going to be very problematic here
Mhm.
because one person will look at sexuality with no judgment, and the other
Mm-hmm.
person might come with a huge, this is good, this is bad point of view.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And not really looking deeper at who are they, them as a sexual being. No, this is good and this is bad.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And also it goes, for example, if one partner comes from a very developed country, very advanced, and the other comes from not so advanced, and the not so advanced country is like very much on the spiritual world, very developed in traditions, in rituals, and the developed country person is more towards the practical mentality. There can be all sorts of clashes about managing I would imagine the financials, the money, the budgets, like an expectations, pressure here and there. Yeah, yeah.
Yes, it can take so many different forms for sure. And I don't think one can come from less developed uh, country to a more developed country. Who's to say
Yeah,
who is more attuned to who they are,
yeah,
right? I mean, developed countries, will, for some, favor education, and that's all good. But if, for example, mm, if I take, here in Quebec, we were submerged by Catholicism 50, 100 years ago. Now there's churches still everywhere, but no one goes to church anymore.
yeah, yeah.
And so there's a whole side of the spiritual life that's neglected.
Mm.
Young people will say, "Oh, I don't go to church anymore. All of this is done. I don't, I have no connection to like, yeah." But then in analysis, you go, "Yeah, but you're full of guilt. You've got that
Uh-huh.
Catholic guilt right there. You don't
Wow.
need to go to church to deal with the same issues of the religion. If you're unaware, you're unaware." And this stuff goes deep because it's been around for centuries and centuries. just like women taking care of their partners, it's going to take a long time for that to change
Yeah.
because women have done that for centuries. And now we're saying, hmm, this is good for children, but not grown adults.
Yeah. So there's light there, there's hope. If women are starting to do this, that is amazing. Um, I want to also touch on um, how would we, because I'm sure every one of us has done it, therapist, no matter the occupation, like we always go choose, I mean, to the model, to the pattern, an emotional pattern that reminds us of the dynamics that we had in our family. And that is like the obvious truth. We choose partners that remind us of our, can be father, mother, or some other person from the family, and we reenact the dynamic. And I wanted to ask you, how often do you see this with your clients, and how probably every day? And is it hard to break the cycle?
Yes.
And
Well, for sure, there's no magic fix. There's no magic wand that's gonna, make you an adult and free yourself of all the layers of adaptation from the years growing up with parents, especially if the parents were emotionally handicapped, which is for most of us, that's what it is. And that's fine. It's not like this is exceptional. For most of us, you know, our parents were not emotionally really well put together and not altogether fault of their own. It's just we're evolving, we're changing, we're moving. Uh, I lost my train of thought. You're going to have to ask me again
sure.
specifically. Oh, I think I got it. How do we get them
How,
to change?
yeah, how would we at least get on a path where we don't fall so easily again in the same dynamic? Because
Okay.
there are certain conditions there. But yeah,
Okay. Well, it's interesting because we have, since Freud, we've put the problem on the parents.
yeah.
And and there is justification for that. However, what I find is neglected is how we adapted to our parents.
Mhm.
So, you know, it's important to go into the memories because in the memories there's emotion. And
Yeah.
so the child will read an event as I'm the problem.
Mhm.
When you look at what actually happened, and then you say to the adult, what do you think of this now? And then the child, and then it'll go, as a child, I thought it was this, but now it's a different story, isn't it? It's
Mhm.
not your fault, or you're not to blame, or your parent did not parent you, or you parented them. So that's important because then they can start to see the emotions that have been stuck there. So that's very important, you know, feeling the sadness for that child that, was basically for some not allowed to be a child
Mhm.
and had to grow
Yeah.
up way too quickly. Now, the growing up quickly, let's say we take that one specific issue, okay, it can be many issues. The person that adapts and takes responsibility and more responsibility, and, mom's upset, sits down, the boy listens to mom, or, the girl gets in tune with the depressed father. And
Mhm.
then they live their life with that automatic response.
I see. Yeah.
And so they'll relate to their partner pretty much the way they related to their parents. On
Attuned.
some level, yeah. So let's say we take the typical good girl,
Mm.
the good girl, she'll do everything so everything is harmonious and good and mom and dad are not fighting and wow, she's spending a lot of energy being the good girl. And
Yeah.
then she does the same thing with her partner. All the while, she's neglecting herself.
Mm.
She's playing a part. She's not listening to how she feels, just like she wasn't able to listen to how she was feeling with her parents. She was too busy trying to uh, make sure things didn't
Everyone.
collapse. And
Yeah.
so, and so to invite the girl to go, now you're not a girl anymore. You're a woman. You're
Mhm.
not a girl. You're a woman. The girl started way back there in your
Yeah.
youth. Now you're a woman. You need to start to understand yourself as a woman. That means you're allowed to be upset.
Hmm.
If things don't suit you, you're allowed to say no. You're the authority now. You decide, no one else. And so to start to change, but that goes through, again, getting their responses to
Uh-huh.
what's happening in their life. So, when they come into analysis and they talk about the weekend with their boyfriend, and then you go, how did that feel? That felt awful. Okay, that's important. But I also feel guilty. Guilty why? Well, because I'm not a good girlfriend or whatever. Like, whoa, 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 just a minute here. What is that guilt? And often that guilt is not being the good girl she thinks she's supposed to be. And to
And the
go,
partner,
yeah, and then to say, are you tired of this feeling awful? Yes, I'm tired of feeling awful. Well, maybe it's time to say no
mm,
or to respond or to change something in the dynamic, but stop being a good girl, starting to feel
yeah.
awful being a good girl.
Mm.
But this
And
is
it's
this is an adaptation to their growing up years.
absolutely. So it takes millimeter step by millimeter step by millimeter step of seeing, of feeling, sensing, being guided by a trusted person. But it seems to me also that it's quite valuable for them to reconnect because, for example, if they're with a loving partner, there's no it's not it's there is safety, or there should be safety, so it's not a matter. Even if they play out their good girl dynamic, they're still in a predominantly safe situation, we would assume. But I can imagine also in some of your client situations, maybe there is no safety because the partner might see very well the pattern of good girl that she has and might exploit it very, very much. So then that's even more necessary in these cases with care, of course, to help the woman see what is happening, what might be happening behind scenes that she doesn't see still, right?
Yes, and you're bringing up a good point because if the partner knows how to bring her into a space where she feels unsure of herself,
Mhm.
it's very
Yeah.
important that in analysis, things are looked at and the therapist can go, yes, but
Yeah,
what he's saying is actually not right.
totally.
You know,
Yeah.
let's say, the discussion of the situation, and you go, yeah, but it's his problem, and he's putting it on to you. And then to invite, oh, and you felt that, and you had that intuition. Why didn't you listen to that?
Mm.
That's right, because many things happen at the same time.
Yeah.
Now, the good girl, though, needs to detach from mom or dad or both,
Mm.
because that's projected on the partner.
Absolutely.
Mom or
Yeah.
dad stuff is projected on the partner. So eventually, you want to invite the person to say, I'm not going to feel guilty anymore.
Mm.
No more guilt.
Yeah.
This is how I feel. I feel like this. This is how I feel. This is my intuition. That's what I'm seeing. I'm going to listen to that. Hey, when there's a knot in my stomach, something's up.
Yeah. 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 Beautiful. And for the women, for example, also men, but because the second part we spoke more about women and women development and women going into therapy and like prioritizing themselves. So a continuation of that topic for the ladies who still haven't come to any type of therapy. But they are considering it and they're starting wondering and they have this nudge of like, okay, maybe there's something more I want to do or I can do. And what are the signs that they could see, they could track to check maybe I've sidetracked in nurturing others too much, because sometimes we go on a tangent and we nurture automatically by default and we don't pay attention to ourselves. So what is it that they can pay attention, be it also from dreams or body sensations or drop of creativity or drop of energy by your professional experience? What would you advise
Well,
them?
for sure, drop of energy is going to be a signal. Okay. However, it depends on the person, but it's going to the unconscious will manifest itself in different ways, but it will manifest. If you're getting nightmares, like
Mm.
that's a warning sign. Nightmares is like it's trying to wake you up to something.
Mm.
If there's a pattern and you're ending up in the same pattern again and again,
Okay.
hey, there's something that you're not getting, and it's probably much deeper than you think.
Yeah.
If you're getting physical ailments and you're getting injured and you're getting more and more physical things, well, it's because your body can't take that anymore. Whatever's going on psychologically, it's bad for you, and your body is going to eventually break down.
Mm. Mm.
And so, listening to all of those things, but, losing the zest for life,
Mm.
not sensing like, oh, life has no meaning,
Mm.
all of these things.
Yeah.
It,
Yeah.
it's like you're not in your life. And when we are in our lives, yes, we might have certain issues. Life is difficult, but we're alive in it. We're not, I think some people they just live their life without asking any questions. And quite frankly, it's like being a zombie. You're on automatic pilot, you just do what you do, but there's no passion, there's no vitality. And sometimes, go to work, come back, have a boyfriend, have a girlfriend, whatever, but there's no juice. That's not a life. That's just coasting through life, not really experiencing it. And some people can do this for a long time. And it might be acceptable to everyone around you. And your parents like you, and your friends like you, and you're a good employee, and you're a good mother. But that's not, if you're not alive in that, and you don't want to wait till, I don't know, you get a cancer and you're 35 and you have breast cancer. Don't wait for that.
Hmm. That connects to my next, thank you so much. That connects to my next question, almost one of the final ones, which is um, how would we, what are, in your view and in your observation based on your practice already for long years, the biggest stealers of our creativity and zest of life in our modern life nowadays? What is it that steals this vibrant energy most, and how we can keep it more, regardless of
Um,
which therapy we choose and what we
uh,
experiment?
okay, well, mm, right now, right now, I find a lot of young people are living a virtual life,
Mm.
which is stealing from the inner life.
Mm.
It's okay to be bored. It's good to feel lonely sometimes.
Yeah.
If you distract yourself all the time with your phone or with other things, you're not going to experience the loneliness that is going to come to, I'm tired of being lonely and I'm going to do something about it. That's why we feel things. We feel things because eventually we feel them again and again and again. And when we feel these things, then we do something about it and we start to change our lives. But if we don't feel them, we can, 10 years, 20 years can go by and we're in the waiting room of our life. We're waiting.
Yeah.
We're not actively involved. We're waiting. Same thing with creativity. You have an idea, there's something that's like a spark,
Yeah.
act on it. Act on it. Don't talk about it. You talk
Yeah.
about it, you're going to lose the energy.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
have a good idea, keep it in, cultivate it, imagine it, draw it, write it, and then take action. Do it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
If you just talk about it, you're going to lose the energy and you're never going to do it. But listen to the spark. Listen to the things that give yourself, like James Hollis says, give yourself permission. Give yourself permission for whatever you desire, for the things that
Beautiful.
you love. Go, give yourself permission. Even if your parents would have never agreed with that, even better reason to go for it.
Thank you so much. That's beautiful. Is there something like a message of inspiration that you want to give to our listeners? We are in the beginning of the year, 2026. Something that you want to wish them, or an insight, or anything, or
Mm.
maybe like also to tell them as well where they can find you, a little bit more about your work. So please.
Okay. Well, I think that, you know, very young, in my 20s, when I was dancing, I wasn't making a lot of money. You don't make a lot of money when you're, and so I started analysis and I couldn't afford it, really. Luckily, my analyst was very generous and he gave me a price that I could meet. But there's a lot of things I couldn't do because I put the money in analysis.
Yeah,
So I didn't go out, I didn't do the things that, a young person would do but then I thought, where is a better place to put my money than with me,
absolutely.
with
Yes,
knowing who I am, understanding who I am. Of all the places I can put money, isn't that the most enriching place to put it? And I'm so glad I did.
totally.
So, so I would say, if you're debating to find help, you know, go out there, find help. If you need it, there's nothing wrong with getting the help that you need. And I think personally, knowing oneself is is there's nothing quite like that. You will benefit.
Definitely.
You will benefit if you get to know more of who you are, and you are a special individual. But that specialness needs to be recognized by you first and foremost. And we can't feel special if we don't know who we are. But if we get to know who
Wow.
we are, then we can go, oh, wow, okay, there's something special here that I am and I can do.
Such an inspirational message. Wow.
So otherwise, I'm beginning a class that's going to start on Wednesday for 20 weeks. And I'm going to introduce participants into Jungian analysis and the main pillars of Jungian work and Jung's theory, but also it's experiential in the way that I invite people to reflect on their lives, reflect on who they are, real issues like parental complexes, uh, the feeling world, eros, shadow work, masculine, feminine, dream work. So we meet over 20 weeks, once a week, and invite self-reflection. How does this apply to me? How does this work for me? And in a sense, it gives enough time for people, whether they're in analysis or thinking of going into analysis, to have this long journey. And so, if people are interested, they can go on Jung Academy and find or on my site, davidpressault.com, and they will find that course available. Otherwise, I'm going to give a lecture for the Jung Society of Montreal, I believe mid to end of March. And I'm going to give a talk. It's going to be on Zoom about men and women in a changing world and at a crossroad. So,
So interesting. I can't wait. I would love to attend that one. So thank you so much for sharing. And I'm sure this course that will start now on Wednesday sounds so transformational already because it covers quite a lot of topic from Jungian analysis and it goes deep, or it can be the initiation, the beginning of something that goes a lot deeper for many of your clients. So it sounds amazing.
well, yeah, we did it last year, and because of how well and all the good responses, we decided to do it again this year. So it seems like it's working for people, and very glad about that. And thanks to you for inviting me and talking about everything we talked about. today. Uh, you're a very good listener. I'm sure you're very good with the people you work with, and very insightful, important questions. I hope that people listening will benefit from this discussion.
Me too. And thank you so much for doing this amazing talk, so insightful and so deep, and bringing your wisdom and knowledge to the world. I really appreciate it, and I had great pleasure talking to you, David.
Likewise, Ayla, likewise.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Um, Stop the recording now.